In this video, we uncovered the shocking story of a family that seemed perfect from the outside, only to meet a brutal and violent end. Buenos Aires, Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, at 1:30 p.m. The apartment building where the Seltzer family lives gets a housekeeper. It's what she does every day. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she works here. She goes to the 6th floor and, as she always does, puts the key into the apartment lock. The system fights back. 2 full turns on the inside lock the door. As you look at it from the other side, the owner's key is in the door. With just a little skill, the maid turns the lock and opens the door. Inside, there is a complete and eerie silence. She moves a few steps into the hall. She looks down the hall that leads to the dining room. There on the floor is a body that is not moving. It's Ivo Seltzer, the owner's 12-year-old son. The woman doesn't scream or move any farther. She leaves right away and calls the police and fire department. There is quiet behind the locked armored door that hides 3 more bodies. The city cops go into the apartment on the 6th floor. Everything inside is in its place. Things are where they belong. The dresser's door's shut. Before we continue, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life crime documentaries, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. I'd also love to hear in the comments which country you're watching from. I always find it amazing to see how far these stories reach and how many people around the world are invested in uncovering the truth and seeking justice. Your support truly means the world. It helps these stories reach more people, raise awareness, and reminds us why it's so important to keep looking for answers, even when justice takes years. So thank you for being here, for caring, and for standing up for truth. Now, let's get back to the story. The investigation turns into a medical record of the scene of the crime. Ivo Seltzer, who is 12 years old, is lying in the living room. The boy passed out in the hallway and never got out. They find 15-year-old Jan in the dining room with several cuts on his back and chest. The head of the family, 53-year-old Bernardo Adrian Seltzer, is lying on the bed in the main bedroom. The police find a kitchen knife with a metal handle close to him. Laura is the last victim found in the bathroom. Her body is slouched on the toilet in a way that doesn't make sense. Only the family cat is still alive, that a police officer carefully moves in a pet cage. As people gather outside the building to talk about what happened, the bodies are taken to the morgue to find out exactly when they died. The detectives working in the apartment quickly come up with their main idea. At the first inspection, all the data fit the pattern of a long-term self-destruction. The father, Bernardo Adrian Seltzer, is the one who is suspected. What the detective thinks depends on where things are in the master bedroom. The kitchen knife with the metal handle is next to the body, on top of the cover. For the operatives, it looks like a clear finish. The dad first fought with his wife and kids, and then he killed himself by dropping the gun at the last second. In forensic analysis, situations like this happen all the time. A lot of the time, they happen after a major personal or financial problem. Trying to get someone to decide not to go out at all, this idea gets out right away to the media. The news starts to spread about a successful broker who probably gave up when things got tough. Reporters look into his work history, looking into his real estate deals and grain market dealings. The official version is quickly accepted by the people. People who knew the Seltzers and saw them that morning as a perfect family start to remember any signs that something might not be right. Bernardo Adrian Seltzer's image is already in bad shape as the bodies are taken to the county morgue. The news stories about him say that he killed his own kids and wife. But no one knows yet that this nice story is going to fall apart as soon as the medical test starts. The investigators were hit hard by the first things they saw at the morgue. All of a sudden, everything changes. Sarah Fernandez Legison's body is at the center of this new path. There is a big difference between her wounds and those on her family. The medical investigator sees a group of deep, piercing wounds around her heart. There are so many cuts close together that they almost touch. In forensic pathology, this is a pattern that highly suggests self-harm. With this much accuracy, it's clear that the person wasn't fighting back or being struck out of the blue. The test also shows that she has cuts on her wrists, a bruised knee, and a broken nose. The most important thing, though, is what's missing. The wounds on her hands and wrists are not for defense. In a real attack, Laura would have had to raise her arms to protect herself, but she didn't. When the police get back to the room, they look more closely. and look for something they missed on the first pass. A second knife with a handle made of wood. It is also used to make forensic proof. Detectives change their whole idea once they have all of these pieces together. No longer is Bernardo Adrian Seltzer seen as the main suspect. His new role is that of a victim. He didn't hurt his family. Laura had the gun that was used in the crime the whole time. Detectives piece together the events using blood pattern analysis and the body results, almost to the second, of that terrible night. The father was the first person killed. Bernardo Adrian Seltzer was sound asleep. Laura's move was quick and hit the right person. 3 sharp, deep stab scars. He may not have had a chance to respond because there are no marks of struggle. The police are also looking into the chance that Bernardo was high on drugs that help people sleep. That would have made it very hard for him to protect himself. After that, Laura got up and went to her kids. This is where things changed. Based on the data, it looks like Jan and Ivo either woke up because of the noise or never went to sleep. Pathologists look at both boys' arms and hands and find deep defensive scars. They put up a strong fight. The strikes are being blocked. There is physical proof in the apartment that backs this up. While Jan made it to the dining room, Ivo was able to run into the hallway. Laura ran after them all through the flat. 10 to 12 stab cuts were given to each of them before they stopped moving. Laura started cutting herself while she was lying next to the body of her husband with the same knife. But she didn't die right away. Even though she was bleeding a lot, she was able to get up and go to the bathroom. That's where her strength ran out. She fell down on the fixtures, finishing off the whole chain of events. We need to go back in time to really understand how big this crash is. These are the lives that are now only autopsy reports at the hospital. He is the head of the family and was born in January 1972 in Rivera, a small town in the country. Even though his family had deep roots in farming, he was able to turn that into money. As the soybean business grew quickly in the early 2000s, he did very well in the grain markets. Beginning as a junior analyst, he worked his way up and is now a well-known broker and advisor at a top company and putting the money he makes into real estate. In Paraguay, which is across the river, people who knew him remember him as a calm and polite person who walked with a quiet sense of efficiency. There was more to his life after he met Laura Fernandez Legeson from the southern part of Buenos Aires. She worked in sales and was 2 years younger than me. She was attractive and popular, and her relationship with Bernardo went through a typical pattern. Fun things they both like, a quick wedding. When their first boy, Jan, was born. And then 3 years later, Ivo came along. Laura was happy with her job as a housewife, giving the impression of a devoted mother. She is very active in raising her sons. For many people, her social media pages showed what a perfect life would be like. Some pictures from the tennis courts, pictures of fully written books, plus news from bike rides with friends. There were a lot of trip geotags on their timeline, Mar del Plata, beaches in Uruguay, and taking in the sights in France and Spain. The Seltzers were seen as the epitome of middle-class success by everyone else. They were wealthy, well-known, and healthy, and what looked like a clear, bright future. There were never any cracks, like the number of people who follow Laura or the people who work with Bernardo Adrian Seltzer. He wrote about the market in trade journals. She showed pictures of her happy kids. Their life seemed to go smoothly. Everything is in its place. It looks like every problem is under control, but something else was going on behind closed doors. One video from the year 2017, archived and lost for a long time, has now come back to hauntingly relevant life. This is a video from a business meeting where expert Bernardo Adrian Seltzer was asked to give a talk. He looks sure of himself on TV, being in a fitted suit and standing at a podium, giving each other advice on how to handle risks. As a financial analyst, this is just what you do. Figure out the chances and stay away from bad calls and keeping investments safe. But then he goes off script. The numbers will not show up on the PowerPoint. A picture shows up on the big screen behind him. That is not of graphs or tables, but Ivo, Jan, and Laura. All of them are happy. Bernardo then looks at the people in the room. He thinks of them as his best investment. He says that the only thing he's not ready to risk is his family. His theory is very clear and useful. You live properly if you want to keep what's important safe. This broker was sure that he could keep his wife and kids safe by staying in charge, being steady, and doing everything the right way. That video has words that 8 years later would have a very different and scary meaning. What does the man say into the mic? "I don't risk anything I'm not willing to lose." He sounds really sad in his voice. "I don't want to lose my family, so I don't put them in danger." He thinks that this recipe is perfect. He thinks that trouble always comes from outside. Stable markets, bad investments, and danger from outside the country. People in the crowd cheer. They see him as a success story because he found the best mix between work and family life. That speaker, along with everyone else in the room, had no idea that the risk management would break down not in the stock market, but in his own bedroom. The man whose career was built on predicting crises never saw the woman he proudly showed off on that screen slowly fall apart in her mind as investigators start to follow Laura Fernanda Leguizamon's digital trail. Small hints start to show up that are hidden beneath the smooth surface of her well-kept life. One post stands out clearly in her February 2025 social media feed, just 3 months before the tragedy. It is very different from the other posts, which are mostly happy, usually full of pictures from tennis fields or bike rides with friends. Laura Fernandez talked about something more personal this time. The post was about how heavy being a mom is. She said that she was able to handle daily stresses and had learned not to drown in a glass of water. But then a phrase was thrown in without much thought or attention. "It now sounds like a decision." She said she had been ready to sleep for 15 years. It wasn't just a number. Jan was her oldest son, and he was 15 years old. She told everyone at that moment, even though it hurt, that she had felt a heavy load and a strong desire to disconnect ever since he was born. If you were just reading for fun, it might have seemed like normal burnout. It's possible that followers double-tapped the heart icon without giving it much thought. No one noticed the link between how old her son was and how long she had been emotionally worn out. Depression hadn't just snuck into that house out of the blue in May 2025. He had lived there quietly for 15 years and grown up with the family. What other people thought was security was actually a slow, quiet falling apart. Laura Fernanda Leguizamon decided to talk to a screen on her phone instead of a real person. That quiet plea for help got lost in the algorithm, mixed in with smooth smiles and holiday highlights, until it was way too late. In the kitchen, where everything else was perfectly organized like the rest of the flat, detectives found one thing that was very different from everything else. A white piece of paper with shaky, crooked writing was on the table. Looking at that note became a deep dive into the mind. A desperate attempt to figure out how a person's mind could fall apart. Handwriting experts saw right away that the text wasn't written all at once. There were gaps between the lines as if they were written at different emotional high points. Letters were tilted in different ways. Cursive and block letters ran into each other. The pen strokes showed that the hand was shaking. The person who wrote it was barely able to stay alive. The note's contents were just as broken up as they looked. Investigators could make out words of goodbye and sorrow written in a jumble of smudges and uneven pen strokes. It was too much. "I love them. I can feel them." But in big, scary letters in the middle of the page, there was the most disturbing message: "We're going to the street." This line made police think that the person who did this might have been motivated by a terrible fear of losing everything. Laura Fernanda Leguizamon seemed to have a strong opinion that had taken root in her mind. A thought that the family was going to lose everything, be evicted, and be homeless, even though there was no proof of that. After all that, a strange contradiction showed up. What kind of person could write such confusing and illogical things, and then show such cold, deliberate clarity? Along the edges of the same page, detectives found something completely different. The details were in a neat and orderly way. The code that Laura Fernanda Leguizamon used to unlock her phone had been carefully written down. Even stranger, she wrote down the PIN codes for her husband's and both of her son's devices in a neat column in the top right corner. She knew that by morning, only the police would be able to open those phones. She set up full digital access to the family's life, knowing that they would no longer be there in person. Because there were blood spots on the page, forensic experts were able to tell that the note was written after the first violent act. While neighbors and coworkers made guesses, and tried to figure out what was going on, agents heard from someone who was not in the Seltzer family's close group of friends. Someone important came forward. He was a man who lived off of collecting cardboard on the streets of Buenos Aires. He met the family for the first time in 2023 when Bernardo and Laura Fernandez saw a news story about him. A former refugee who lived in the U.S. for years before going back to Argentina and is now having a hard time making ends meet. Because he spoke English so well, the Seltzers hired him as a private language teacher. This man's testimony dismantled any theory about real bankruptcy, a suspicion that might have been drawn from the "we're going to the street" phrase in Laura Fernanda Leguizamon's note. The teacher said that the family never missed a payment. Laura also paid ahead of time a lot of the time. Their kindness went far beyond what is expected in a business partnership. The parents often gave their sons teacher books and clothes that they no longer fit, asking him to give them to students in need, kids that he was teaching for free. He thought the Seltzers were doing well financially and didn't seem to be in any kind of trouble or need. But the tutor's comments showed something else, a trend of pulling away from people. In March 2025, they last talked to each other. At that point, Bernardo told him that the family was skipping lessons because they were meant to be flying to the U.S. He was nice and said he'd get in touch when they got back. But later studies showed that trip never took place. The story about traveling abroad was made up. It was a handy way for the family to hide from their friends and family and spend time alone in their apartment. The police found several voicemails from Laura Fernanda Leguizamon on the witness's phone. She says she's sorry for missing a lesson in one of the last records she sent right before the tragedy. Laura tells the teacher that they had a small problem, but that class will start again the following Saturday. Her tone is happy, polite, and completely calm. That audio message became more proof of how well Laura was able to hide how she really felt, going from being deeply troubled to acting like a happy, involved student, which is what society expects of her. As the police looked into Laura Fernanda Leguizamon's medical background, they got a better idea of what was going on, one that pointed to a long-running problem that the family had been trying to handle behind closed doors. It was proven that Laura had gone to specialized mental health facilities twice for inpatient care. A year and a half before the tragedy, there was the first major event. Both Laura's family and herself saw the breakdown at the time as the culmination of a lot of stress. After finishing treatment and getting stable with medication, she went back to her normal routine, which made it look like she was fully recovered. But she had a major breakdown 2 months before she died. This time, the doctors found a major mental illness. What made things worse was that Laura was starting to understand how bad things were for her. In a chat with a close friend, she said that accepting her diagnosis had made her feel even worse. A psychiatrist who had treated the family before and kept in touch with them personally refused to continue treating Laura because they felt it was unethical to do so. She suggested that Laura see a group of independent experts from different fields. The Seltzer family put her on a list of people to wait for, but time ran out. The most scary thing about this timeline is that a moment of truth seems to have been missed. When the police searched the flat, they found a huge stash of prescription drugs, including some that are used to treat schizophrenia and severe depression. After finding this, police thought Laura might have stopped taking her medicine by herself at a time when she really needed it. People around her noticed that she was acting differently, but they didn't fully understand what it meant. The housekeeper who came to the flat often later remembered that Laura's mood changed quickly and dramatically. The sound of the vacuum cleaner made her look and act annoyed. It got to the point where she wanted the machine turned off and even asked the maid to leave early. The building manager also remembered something upsetting Laura said a few weeks before May. "I only get up for my boys. It doesn't matter anymore." When Bernardo Adrian saw that his wife had lost interest and stopped leaving the bedroom, he made a choice that would kill her. So he could work from home instead of going to the office. He turned his room into his personal command center. It was his belief that just being there would be enough to calm things down and offer support. He tried to handle something on his own, even though it needed immediate medical help and professional care. The walls of their fancy home closed in around them, leaving the family alone with a mental crisis that was getting worse quickly, but the head of the house thought it was a doable risk. The family made a decision early in the morning on May 23, 2025, that broke the idea of a united Seltzer family for good. It was said that the funerals would happen at different times, The family of Bernardo Adrian claimed the bodies of the father and his two kids, Jan and Evo. The victims stayed together after they died. Her sister planned a separate service for Laura Fernanda Leguizamon that was held in private. For some reason, Bernardo's family wouldn't bury his kids near the person who killed them. The room on the 6th floor is still locked up today. People in the neighborhood who used to look up to the couple are still trying to figure out what's going on. 2 cemeteries were the end of a beautiful life story made up of edited vacation pictures and carefully chosen online moments. Only the cracks are left behind the closed door of the perfect home. Cracks that had been growing for years without anyone noticing until the whole building fell apart in an instant that could not be fixed. Thank you for watching and following along as we uncovered this case. Stories like this remind us that the world can be unpredictable and that staying alert and aware is always important. If this video kept you captivated, made you think, or surprised you, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story we explore. Your support allows this channel to keep bringing these real-life cases to light. I want to hear what you think, so drop a comment below, share your reactions, insights, or the next case you'd like to see covered. Every comment is read and helps shape the content we create, and if you feel someone else could benefit from watching this video, don't hesitate to share it. Spreading awareness ensures these stories reach more people and make a real impact. Stay cautious, trust your instincts, and take care of yourself and those around you. Life can change in an instant, and paying attention to the small details can make all the difference. Thank you again for watching, supporting the channel, and being part of this community. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next video, where we explore another story full of mystery, shocking truths, and lessons to remember.